I just put together a post on this subject, and then I thought about it some more, and I thought, no, I'll go back on my timeline an hour and rethink what I just said. It's very, very useful to rethink what you said and re-examine what you said. Loop it through a few times before you output it, and see if there's been any shifts. There were for me in the space of 1 hour, so I thought I'd redo it. My original discussion, of course, is about this device, and I showed it to you in this form as the controller box, and onto that controller box we will add the emitter. That's the emitter coil. It looks like that. So the coil itself is this, and it's got a basically what would be considered like a inductor coil and a light emitting diode, and then you have an external power supply that goes there, and a window here that gives you precise readout. Of course, it's not active at the moment. Interestingly, there have been other companies and other products that have also been devising products that work on this principle. This one is a company that now makes a sort of a pendant thing called Q-Link, and it's a clock device. I don't think these are made anymore. So this is a unit that used to be made. This was their most powerful unit. It was similar in that I think it produced a magnetic field with some kind of other special. They're very, very secretive about what it is. Some other factor that is more than simply the oscillating magnetic field. And their claim is their magnetic field is a carrier for an even more subtle, powerful energy, or I don't know what, but whatever the Q-Link company does, they supposedly encode it in this clock device. So you put this clock in an area and turn it on. So this highly controlled version is certainly not the only example of the technology. This is one example of magnetic field technology. There are other examples. On this example, this is extremely unimpressive looking, but on the cord there, embedded in there, I've added 2 of Jack Bybee's quantum filters. And Bybee, by the way, is a very serious quantum physicist that has designed specialized filtration systems for things like the Seawolf class submarines. So when they want to run very, very silent, they were using some of Bybee's technologies. Now they use it in things like stereo systems, probably imaging, because it very much reduces the background noise. There's been a long interest, a long tradition of energy, people working either with emitting energy, receiving energy, transforming energy. So here's a kind of gadget that was invented for the purpose of realigning an energy field. This is an entirely passive device, and I think it's got some kind of coil inside it. I'm not sure how it's designed. It's very nicely made. I've always found it to be extremely pleasant when placed over my heart. And I get a very distinct feeling of sort of like my heart is relaxing and working better, like it's just sort of a happier heart from placing this passive device. And I think one of the possible explanations for that is the heart is, among other things, an electrical generator. It has nodes, like the sinoatrial node, that emit strong electrical pulses. So the coronary pulse is, besides a muscular contraction, it's a powerful electrical discharge with every heartbeat, and that creates a field. So if this device is somehow harmonizing or aligning in some ways that field, or stabilizing that field, or changing that field in some way, perhaps my heart is feeling that as a more relaxed or coherent state. And Claris and their products claim that they're aiming to create some kind of state of higher coherence, which leads us a little further down the road to my experiences with in Balinese culture with the Balinese priests, and what we would take to be psychic energies or the paranormal types of things. This gets very tricky because you say, are you imposing content? I don't know at that point. It's impossible to distinguish between what's objective and what's subjective. What I subjectively experienced at certain times with certain adepts or senior members of their priestly caste was something that certainly subjectively appeared to me to be a profound, energetic state unfamiliar to the Western mind. And to the other Western minds in our group, a very, very disconcerting, very confusing state. So there are many approaches. So if I were to take, say, this device and set it on its lowest possible setting, around 1 hertz, 1 cycle per second, you would experience something like kind of a bliss, sort of a samadhi, a mild samadhi kind of state, I suppose. I don't know how many other parts of the self have to be aligned in order to bring about the full expression of that state. You know, you can say, sure, you can sort of generate a state, but there has to be a much deeper level of development in the person for that state to fully manifest. This device also can be set on states that are destabilizing and disordering, they're confusing to directly confusing to the vestibular system, creating a sense of physical instability. They can be turned onto states that would be resembling being in your best couch potato state, watching television, just kind of what I think they call in some cultures couch lock, just sort of stuck to the couch and just blandly watching television. Yeah, that can be generated at certain frequency bands, as can, say, states of high and focused attention. So the question comes up here, and this is the thought. NLP has been described as the structure of subjective experience. Fine and well, I'm totally on board with that idea. The places I've seen that have gone in further directions are, yes, there are energy technologies that also seem to directly affect or modify or change the level of coherence of subjective experience. So if we're talking about the structure of subjective experience and we're talking about either passive or active means of modifying that, then yes, whether or not we can describe these in some sensory modality or submodality that's in a book that someone's laid out for us or not, these are definitely part and parcel of human subjective experience. As I believe psychic experiences and mediumistic experiences and genuinely lineal, deep, and pre-industrial culture type shamanic experiences are very much also legitimate parts of subjective experience. They're just areas of subjective experience that are relatively difficult, confusing, confounding, perhaps disturbing to us, especially if we're very, very bound to a sort of a Western positivistic, rationalistic model. These might either be considered heathen or what's the word for it? They're heresy, I sense. In a certain sort of, to the scientific worldview, they may be a little heretical. Nonetheless, they are subjectively present. They are subjectively experienceable to me in my frame of reference. So there's very, very much that can be said and done on this level, and I think NLP somewhat dares to try to attempt to go there a little bit and then kind of retracts its feeler because there's such a strong resistance to a lot of this in the Western model. But we're smarter than that, aren't we?